Hello, everybody. My name is Yvette Myers. I am a mental health counselor in the state of South Carolina. I have been a mental health counselor for approximately 3 years here in the state of South Carolina. I work with substance abuse patients or clients, and I work with mental health. Mental health encompasses all things: depression, anxiety, stress. Uh, why did I just go brain? Am I live? Is anybody there? Hello? Oh, I see a light. I'm sorry, y'all. This is my first time doing this, so please don't judge me. I'm going to try to share my PowerPoint online, and I saw a way to do it, and I had it earlier. I'm going to, if I don't, I'm just going to talk through the points, and because I'm from the old school, there's always more than one way to skin a cat. If you would like your me to send you this PowerPoint, just put your email in the bottom, in the comment section, and I'll forward it to you. Okay, here we go. What we're talking about today is depression, the holidays, and maintaining our sanity. Now let's see if we can get that the same way that we had it before, where it was, hi Barbara, where it was, nope. And I don't want to spend too much time on it, so you're just gonna have to look at me. If we were to, give me 1 second. There we go. I pulled up the wrong one. I'm like, wait, that's not it. I want to start by doing a core values exercise. And this is going to take a few seconds. If you can start off with me, what you're going to do is I want you to write down the first 3 things that you can think of that gets you ticking. What are your core values? What makes you get up in the morning? What do you think about when you make your decisions? A lot of people say God, a lot of people say your children, so forth and so forth. So whatever your core values I'm going to give you about 2 seconds to write down 3 of them. So go ahead for me. Okay. Now that you've written down your core values, now what I want you to do is I want you to regurgitate your morning, your day today. And I want you to, when you first woke up, 2 seconds. When you first woke up this morning, what's the first thing that you did? And then what did you do? And then what did you do? We're not writing a dissertation, people. We're just writing a few things about, just so that you can get an idea of how depression and anxiety and stress and all these other ailments can affect our lives. What I want you to do is write down what you did when you first woke up this morning, what you did next, what you did next, what you did next, what you did next, and go up until you reach today. This moment right now. And I'm going to give you another 3 seconds, a little bit longer. So basically what this exercise is doing is it's allowing you to, our minds can many times play tricks on us. And we'll say that, I feel like I woke up this morning and I did nothing. I feel like my entire day was wasted. And a lot of times that can happen because of the decisions that we make. So now that you have those, and I know I probably did not give you time, but you can go back and you can do it and you can understand what my concept or what I'm trying to do or say afterwards. Okay. So now I want you to do is I want you to look at your core values. And then I want you to look at what you actually did. Now, If you compare the two lists, and if your core values did not complement, I mean, if your daily activities or your day's activity did not complement in any way your core values, then you'll probably not, I'm not diagnosing you, if you'll probably feel like at the end of the day, like your entire day was wasted. That happens many times when we say or we believe something entirely, and then we do nothing to manifest or to keep those core values going. When you say your core values is anything, if you say your core values is God, and I use that as a blanket answer, and I apologize if that offends anyone, because I don't want to be unpolitically, is that right? Is that a word? Anyway, go with it. Correct. So if your core values do not, if you didn't say anything to God today, if you did not pray, if you did not pray for someone, if you did not pick up your Bible, when you go to bed, you're gonna, sometimes we begin to feel distant from God because we did nothing. And you have to or intertwine or encourage or keep some of your core values inside of what your daily activity. When those two align, we won't experience what we call cognitive dissonance. That's when, everybody knows what that is. When you believe one thing and you do another. And the internal conflict that happens on the inside, when you're doing one thing but believing another, you will either stop believing it or you'll change how you feel about it. That's that exercise. Now, factors of the holiday. Let's talk about the holiday. A lot of things happen to us when we around this time of the year. We fail to cope with our past. Factors of depression during the holidays, should I say. We fail to cope with our past, unrealistic expectations, financial pressure, sadness, anxiety, and special family and friends. Now, let me tell you what I mean by special family and friends. We have those family and friends that are, let's just say, special. They know how to excite us, and they know what to say and what to do. In those cases, you have to make a decision. I tell clients constantly, when something happens, regardless to who is causing the anxiety or the stress, because unresolved anxiety or stress is going to cause depression or can lead into depression. So whoever is causing the anxiety or the stress, identify them. Once you identify them, you have to make a decision. And sometimes the decision can be difficult. If it's your grown children, if your significant other, if it's your parents, you have to make a decision in order to maintain your sanity and your healthiness, if you will. You just have to. In coping strategies and dealing with what we just talked about, a couple of things can happen. On my screen, want to mess up, but it's okay. One thing is coping strategies. Know your triggers. The holidays is usually a time that a lot of people trigger when it comes to depression. You can't avoid that. That's something that happens, but you can set limits. And you can set a plan. Excuse me. I apologize. Excuse me. Nothing like real life. A plan is what you put in place. If something happens, something's going to happen. There's nothing more important than insurance. If you don't have car insurance, you don't realize how important it is until something happens. If you don't have a plan in place for those anxieties, that stress, that depression, then you're likely to succumb to it. And succumbing to it can be laying in the bed and just crying your eyes out. It can be, it can even lead to suicide or homicide, unfortunately. And I don't laugh at that. I just laugh because sometimes it gets to the point where it can be detrimental. Have a plan in place. Remove yourself from situations that ignite conflict, even if it's family. When things are bothering you, and even if it's family, if it's get to the point that it's hurting you, remove yourself from it. Know your limits. Know what bothers you, know what doesn't bother you, and know how far you can allow anything allow you to be pushed. Don't be afraid to say yes. A lot of times we get into the habit of not being afraid to say no, but I encourage you to not be afraid to say yes. If someone invites you over and you are a single mom or dad and you don't want to bother them, say yes. I encourage you to mingle, to get out and to be around other people. It's difficult to stay in a funk when you are in the presence of fun people. It really is. Don't be afraid to say yes. Incorporate workouts in your life. That is a biggie. When things start to go down, start lifting it up. Get out, go for a walk, get some fresh air, some sun. And that's the next point. Get some sun. When you one of the every article that I've read regarding depression is one of the tidbits is get some sun, some vitamin D. Now our society has taught us that you can take a nice little pill and get some vitamin D, but I encourage you to go outside and get some sun. And that's really interesting on a religious tip, and I hate to bring that in because I love to be politically correct, but if you have the sun, then it's not likely to experience depression. And I don't want to state that if you are not religious, that then you will experience depression. That it is inevitable for you to experience depression. That's not what I'm saying. Please don't lose the context with the illustration. The illustration with the demonstration. If I can say it right. If it won't matter in a year, then don't let it bother you now. Everything that's in your presence, everything that's bothering you, everything that's that can get you to a point where you feel depressed. Ask yourself, if it's not going to matter in a year, 5 years, let it go. It ain't even that important. The next thing is, there's this system called the Boeing family system. And I love this theory because it's a psychological theory. I love this theory because it talks about how a group of cows were observed, and one of the cows backed into an electric wire fence. As one of the cows backed into the electric wire, it immediately yelped, moo. Now, that anxiety was felt throughout the other cows. They began to say, to reciprocate, moo. And as it got away from, the closer it was to the cow that was injured, the louder it was. As it spread out or got away from the injured cow, the anxiety dissipated. So what affects one affects all, but it's just going to be on a different level. What was interesting about this was the anxiety also jumped across the street to the cows that were across the street. And the cows across the street experienced a measure of the anxiety, but not as intense as the anxiety that was experienced by the initial cow, not as intense as the anxiety experienced by the cows in the group, but it did experience it. If one person experienced it, then someone else is going to experience it. So that being said, is even coming in contact with people, Barbara is messaging me. Now, let me see if I've lost something. Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure I wasn't losing her. Even if it measures it, just because one person experienced it and one person carries that anxiety, that depression, that grief, that frustration, that anger, if you come in contact with that person, it's likely to be transferred to you. You ever come in contact with somebody and you just feel different? And if it's not a positive feeling, because you can get good energy from people as well as negative energy from people. And if you don't protect yourself, if you don't protect your children, then that's going to be spread. And protecting not necessarily means shutting yourself down so that you're not empathetic to others. Protecting can be acknowledging. You see something, you feel something, you ask, are you okay? If they say no, then you immediately give that energy back to them. And giving it back to them can be as simple as saying, I'm not dealing with that today. I say that often, quite often. I'm not dealing with that today. And those words articulated out of my mouth help me to come to grips with whatever is in front of me. I don't have time. I don't have the mental space. I don't have the energy to deal with that. So I give it away. If you want my help, I'll give it to you. If you don't, I don't have time. And I don't want to sound cold or callous. It's simple. We have to be in a position where we protect our energy. We protect what's going on in us. We cannot be effective. We cannot be the people that we need to be if we are absorbing everything from everybody. And then by the time we get home to our significant others and our children, they get all the garbage that we've picked up throughout the day. Give it back. It's not yours. Give it back. The next thing is, I'm almost done, you guys. I'm going to shoot through the symptoms right quick. And those are symptoms of depression can be severe recurrent temper outbursts. Now that happens a lot in children. I should hope, and I really hope that adults don't experience that, but sometimes they can. Children experience depression the same as adults, but they express it differently. Children are upset, they get frustrated, they start outbursts, they start rebellion, they what we call picking at other students. It's it's a chemical imbalance, and it's almost like a constant somebody inside your head flicking the light on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. Now, initially, you might be able to ignore that, but after a while, that's going to get really, really annoying. And every time they flick that light, that's energy that you either receive or don't get. And as you that light is continuously flicked, they got to get rid of it. And a lot of times kids don't know how to say, okay, I'm depressed and I need to go see someone. I need to go have my levels checked and I need you to take me to the doctor. Kids not going to say that. They're going to start to act out. They're going to start to be frustrated. They're going to start to do things that kids do. So if a kid is actually in your presence and they're starting to behave unnatural, different from what they previously, have them do a complete physical. Depressed mood most of the day or all the day, markedly diminished interest and pleasure. That's the first sign. When things that you love to do or someone loved to do, they just stop. They don't want to do it anymore. That's a sign of depression. Can't sleep. Either can't sleep or sleeping too much. A sign of depression. Psychomotor agitation, retardation, and nearly your muscles just start to act array. You're tired and loss of energy. Feelings of worthlessness and hopelessness and excessive of inappropriate guilt. Something happens and you feel bad, but not just feel bad, you feel really, really bad, and to the point where you can't function anymore. Diminished ability to think or concentrate. It's difficult for people with depression to do daily activities. They begin to, it's difficult. Recurrent thoughts of death. A lot of people with depression not necessarily think about homicide or suicide, but they start to think about death, which is the first signs of that. One of the initial signs of heading into suicide is they start thinking, well, leaving here is not that bad. It wouldn't be a bad thing. Start to pay attention to what people are saying. The symptoms caused by clinically symptomatic stress, impairment, and social occupation. There are three ways that we identify depression. If it impairs your social ability, your occupational ability, or your functioning, social, or occupational. If one of those are affected to the point where it's no longer working, then we have a clinical definition of depression. poor appetite, or overeating, which is the case in both one of the other. It can be either or. I've said that low energy or being fatigued. Let's go to the next one. What time? We got 10 more minutes. Now, we're going to take about 3 of those 10 minutes, and I'm going to do an exercise. And I want you to grab a piece of paper and write this down for me. I want you to write an answer between 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4. Got that? So I also want to say that what I did was these little booklets right here, I'm not plugging this. I am, but I'm not. What I'm giving you on this it's only about 30 minutes. I do these workshops once a month, and as I do them once a month, I just develop these little booklets that go along with the workshops. There is so much more information in here that I just can't. I don't have the time to do it. If you would like one of these, you can go to my website at www.betterdecisionsbetterhealth.com. Now, inside this workbook, I'm going to tell you about this exercise that we're about to do. And the question is, how well-rounded are you? Because as we talked about earlier, when there's a deficient in anywhere, then that's when we start if, like, for instance, if your arm hurt, you will favor that arm, or you would either stop working that arm, or you would try to overwork it to get it to, if it was, to get it to work again. Or if it was sore, if you worked out, you would probably favor it. And you would, by favoring it, I mean, you would just wouldn't do anything with it. Before we go there, we're going to do that at the end. I'm going to keep going so that I can get through this. And if anybody wants to do that, we'll go through that, because I don't want to do that. Let me tell you how depression works. Depression changes our lives by slowly taking us from 100 to 0. If you were to imagine a room, and inside the room was filled, on the walls were filled with light switches. Everywhere that you can see a part of the wall, there was a light switch. Depression would walk inside that room and strategically begin to turn lights off one at a time. Now, if you start to turn, if there was a room that was filled with that much light, and 1 or 2 lights begin to be turned off at a time, you would not notice it. However, if someone walked in the room day 3, day 10, day 20, a year later, they could easily say something is wrong in this room. There's not enough light in here. But the person sitting in the room won't be able to see it. It's like, it's fine. It's fine in here. So that's why we need someone else in order to monitor us, if you will, to keep an eye on us. They can see things in us that we have begun to think is normal. This is how this is what I just got to do. I just got to function like this. But someone looking at you can clearly say, this is not right. Something is wrong. In that instance, be mindful of who you're around. Be mindful of how they usually act, and be mindful of how when behavior changes. As I get ready to close, and then I'm going to leave the last 5 minutes for questions, get some sun. You got to get outside. A lot of times we don't go outside because it's cold and during the winter time, but go outside. You got to get some sun. You got to walk around. You got to get that cold air in your lungs. You got to get that sun on your skin. Practice mindfulness. Now, I've known about this all my life, but I became completely familiar with it as I became a counselor. And mindfulness is staying in the present, being mindful of what's going on right now, and everything else really doesn't matter, because you can only be in one place at one time. So hang out with you. Okay. Yes. Practice mindfulness. Accept who you are. Compromise, but don't settle. You are who you are. Find some friends. Find somebody to be with. That goes back to what I was saying is when you have to, when someone else can see something in you, because those lights are being turned off. When someone else can see something in you, then you need, let them, if someone says something to you, you sound different, you seem different. Is there anything wrong? The first thing we say is, no, ain't nothing wrong with me. But sometimes they can come in the room and see that there are lights off. Barbara says to go to Starbucks and have some coffee. That's interesting, Barbara, because caffeine is one of the things that we need to avoid when we're experiencing depression. I don't know what it does, but it just kind of just makes it bad. So go to Starbucks and have some milk, some warm milk. I don't know. Stop criticizing yourself. Accept your imperfections and go with it. Take a stance of non-judgmental awareness. That can be beneficial in yourself and in others. Give yourself compassion. We are more compassionate with other people than we are with ourselves. And be kind towards yourself. I have this thing that I like to call emotional toolbox. And what it is you can go online and you can find, type in Google the word emotions, and faces will probably come up, different types of faces. And one of the things that I learned as I was a counselor, when I was becoming a counselor, is if everything in your toolbox, if the only tool, in your toolbox is a hammer, everything will look like a nail. And what I do with this emotional toolbox is, if I were to ask an adult, how many emotions do they have? Many adults can only give me about 5 to maybe a really knowledgeable adult probably can give me 10. But there are over 63 different emotions and many, many more. Now, when you Google that tool, Google that picture of emotions, get the most basic one. And then what I want you to do, this is your homework assignment. What I want you to do is I want you to just say happy. If somebody approaches you and they are happy, how would you deal with it? If somebody approaches you and they are sad, how would you deal with it? What you're doing is you're building your emotional toolbox. And so if you are happy, how would you deal with it? If you are sad, how would you deal with it? If you are scared, how would you deal with it? And what that does is that puts you in a place where you have insurance now, because insurance is not something that you need every day, but it is absolutely important when things start hitting the fence. You need that insurance. And so building this emotional toolbox will put you in a place where if things go awry, you know what to do next. Because when you don't know what to do next, that's when things become dismal. That's it. There's much, much more, like I said, and that you can find in this book that this little pamphlet that I just put together. And also go to my website, www.betterdecisionsbetterhealth.com. You can order that. If you guys order it all together, and you guys get together doing one of your meetings, I will absorb the postage and I'll send them all to Barbara, and you guys can hand them out, or I can put your names on a sticky note and whoever ordered what. But if you want one of those, please, I encourage you to go there. You don't have to have it. If you want a copy of this this PowerPoint that I did today, I can send it to you. Thank you. Barbara, you have any questions? Let me see what Barbara said. Criticizing yourself seems to be a big one. Yes, criticizing yourself. That goes with giving yourself compassion, allowing yourself to be in a position where we have more compassion for other people and more empathy and sympathy for other people than we do for ourselves. And no one deserves it better than we do. If you guys have any questions, I will be monitoring this feed. If you guys have any questions, let me know, and I'll give you the best answer that I have. Thank you. What could you say to those that lost family members and depression can? I did not mention that. Thank you, Barbara. I did not say that. I did not address that. And that was one of my points. If depression gets to the point where it is derailing your life and your room is completely dark, you have to go see someone. You have to. You have to shake yourself, get yourself to the point where you have to go see someone. You have to. You got to get up. You got to go see someone. If you don't, it's not going to be a good outcome. It can't be. It cannot possibly end well if you don't get yourself up and go see someone. If you had a cold, and I like to use it in this scenario, if you had a cold and you were sneezing and coughing and wheezing, you would begin to doctor yourself. And you would doctor yourself. Now you're sneezing and coughing and wheezing. It gets worse and worse and worse. And after about day 3 or 4, you see that it's not getting better, because at that point, a common cold should be on the decline. It's still getting worse and worse. If your symptoms are exacerbating. What do? You go to the doctor. You find a doctor and you go to. This is out of my control. I am no longer capable of self monitoring or self what word am I looking for? Of taking care of myself. I can't fix this any longer. And we have no harm in taking ourselves out to go to the doctor and say, I can't do this anymore. But however, when it comes to mental health, we continue to patch and take care of ourselves, and things get worse and worse and worse. And it completely derails our lives and our relationships. If it's getting to that point, or if it feels like you just need to see somebody, go to a doctor. Bonus question. What if you're feeling lonely? Desire a companion during the holidays? As a licensed counselor, I have no answers for that. You have to find someone to get in to be around someone. One, I would say, as Yvette, let Yvette answer that, because the counselor and me can't answer that. Yvette would say, find some friends, get around some people. It's difficult to be lonely and to be depressed when you are in the company of good people. Find people. Don't be afraid to say yes. Somebody asks you to go somewhere to hang out with family, go with them. And don't think that you're a third wheel or you are bothering them. If they ask you, say yes. Yes. And if they don't want you to go, then they shouldn't ask you. So say yes. Get out. Don't stay in the house, because it's just not going to end well. Get out, mingle, go places by yourself. If you want to go to the movies by yourself, go to dinner by yourself, and sit there and people watch. That is so much fun. It's really, really fun, I tell you. Just sit and people watch, because now you're not forced to talk to someone in front of you. You can just watch other people. I do that sometimes, y'all. It's funny. But I encourage you to get out. You have to get out. It's not going to seem better or get better if you're in the house. I'm going to end right there. I've gone 4 minutes over, and I don't want to be a stickler. And I want to be invited back again. So I encourage you, if you want the full, I can email you the presentation, what we did today. And if you want the full thing, go to my website, www.betterdecisionsbetterhealth.com. Thank you.